Welcome in, private practice owners. We're here to make sure your website converts more clients than it already does and make sure that this continues to flow well for you. We've got 5 just fast, easy tips headed into 2025 and beyond for you to level up your website. You're going to pay special attention to probably number 4 and number 5 today, because those are going to be some of your quick action items where we see practices of any size kind of go down rabbit holes that they don't need to go down and just fix some things that will help you convert more clients immediately. So we're going to dive head first into your website performance for your therapy practice right now. Let's go.
Point number 1, guys. We've seen it time and again at this time. We have worked with so many practices, and they have such a wide range of website presentations, we'll call it. And time and again, the ones with a clear, concise video from the clinical director or the owner directly on something like the homepage are the ones that crush it. If you can afford to go the extra mile and have little mini video intros for each of your therapists as well, that's going to kick some major butt too, especially if you're expecting your website visitors to kind of self-sort themselves. If you're not expecting your visitors to self-sort themselves, then maybe this isn't so important, but it's definitely helpful. Videos get read by Google these days. So it boosts your SEO, it's going to boost your on-site engagement, and it's just going to create an environment where people can kind of like try before they buy with you. And it's such a powerful tool when it comes to making a great website incredible.
Yeah. There are different types of buyers right now. So think about it this way. The goal of a website is to get someone from point A to point B. That is literally to get them to learn about your services and book a call, book an appointment, eventually become a paying client, however they submit that form or give a phone call or whatever. Like, that's just the goal of the appointment, is to help them reach the destination. Similarly, people buy different cars to do different types of destination driving. Some buy a car to do a road trip, to commute, to fit all of their kids, to, fill in the blank. Within that, though, your website can look and serve some different needs. But at the core of it, we're trying to convert these people that are looking for therapy into therapy clients for you explicitly. When we think about video content, then what we're really saying is it's a different way to communicate to potential clients. Some clients, they're more than happy to read lots of content, and that's how they'll warm up to you and decide to opt in. Other people, they don't want to read a single thing on your website, and they'd be happy to watch a video, and that is what will convert them, right? They'll turn on the video, watch it at 2 times speed, sort of, do the equivalent of skimming it, take a next step. And so I think one thing to think about beyond just the polishedness, how polished a video is, how the specifics of the content. Sometimes you could literally say the exact same things in the video as is written in text right below the video, and you'll convert 2 different types of people because they prefer different types of content formats. And I think that's a really important note when you think about designing a website that will convert audiences into paying therapy clients.
Yeah, that's such an important note. I'm glad you brought that up. It's 2 different people who like different things, 100%. Which is crazy. Number 2, guys, is poor menu navigation, like what items you have actually in your menu, and also poor mobile optimization.
Yeah.
This is a really interesting point because at this point in time, 60% or more of your traffic is usually mobile visitors, which means that if you don't have an experience that people can actively use on their mobile device, and it's maybe useful or even better than the desktop experience, which is maybe something that we're used to looking at when we're like, oh yeah, that's the website that I just designed and this is beautiful and awesome. If your mobile version isn't just as beautiful, just as awesome, just as usable, you're actually just taking the money that you spent and putting double on the table and then burning that pile. So mobile optimization is super, super important. And then as far as navigation goes, Josh and I'm hogging all of it, but as far as navigation goes, I think this is actually most useful for SEO.
Yeah.
So although it's useful for clients to get to where they want to go, like they should be able to get the questions that they have at the top of their mind when they're visiting a site. You should be able to get those answered quickly through your navigation. But depending on how you have your navigation, you're also instructing Google. So the navigation is the first thing on top of the page. You're instructing Google to go visit those pages first. And the more times that that spider crawls through your different pathways, the Google spider is what it's called. So when the Google spider crawls through all those different pathways, those are the pages that are most highly indexed, which
Yeah.
means if you don't have quick links to service pages, or you don't have quick links to maybe references for your insurance or your locations or how to contact you, that stuff isn't feeding Google with the information it needs to make a great search engine listing for you.
Right. Within that, all to say is if you haven't looked at your website and especially your most important website pages, and they are hard to navigate to, and or they aren't optimized on mobile, you're guaranteed to be losing traffic and losing conversions right now. And you just need to go and make those updates immediately and spend more time there whenever you launch new content. But that does lead into just another structural piece of the website that I'd say we're very bullish on, especially when we're running ads or doing SEO. And it's something we call a thank you page. So you're in a scenario where someone goes to your website or goes to a web page from a Google ad, and they choose to fill out the form that you have on your website or fill out the calendar link to book a confirmation. Most of the widgets, most of the website platforms, they'll kind of auto-generate like a confirmation message right there, and it won't reload the page, or maybe it pushes them to like a confirmation page like you're booked. But that's all the information that is available post that. We're actually missing a huge opportunity here to deliver additional content and additional resources to potential clients. They just expressed a massive amount of interest by filling out that form or booking the appointment. The likelihood that as soon as they finish that and they get sent to another page, that they will consume the following page, the confirmation page, is very, very high. Which means if we add more things other than like you're booked or the form's been submitted, it's a huge opportunity to educate your client. This is a great place to put a video. If it's a form fill, this is a great place to put a calendar for them to book the consult. It's a great place to list out what they're going to experience in intake call. It's a great place to introduce them to their counselors that you have on your team. It's a great place to literally ask the question, if I could have every single client know and understand blank, put that on your thank you page after they take an action with you, and suddenly every single client contacting you will have the opportunity to consume that premise or that idea. And so I just strongly encourage you that this is probably the biggest point on the list that could start to give you ROI. Actually, one of the things that when we're trying to fix a practice owner's intake process, so they aren't getting as many people showing up to the intake call, or it's a cash pay and not as many people are closing, the thank you page is a place we zoom into often to really get better, more educated, more warmed up buyers by the time they head into a phone call or by the time they head into a consult with a potential client.
Yeah. Speaking on that last little step, getting people a little bit more familiar. Our number 4, this is probably the one of 2 huge takeaways that you guys probably implement right away, is just making the mistake of thinking that because you are familiar with the purchasing process of mental health, that your clients are familiar with the purchasing process of mental health.
Yeah.
So many times that is probably the single biggest reason why you're undervaluing and undercomplicating something that just needs to have just the bare babyest amount of complexity to it. By complexity, I don't mean like this needs to be something deep and distant and hard to do for your practice, but it does need to have a little bit of repetition, and it does need to have a little bit of a procedure to it. So this intake process, the opt-in process, the matchmaking process, all of this kind of needs to come together in your language on your site in a way that you can continue to re-explain the process and continue to have a very clear cut process for your clients to follow. And so one example for this might be, you know that people visit your page, any of your pages. Go look at Google Analytics, see your top 3 traffic pages. You know that people are visiting this page, which means that they're getting some information from you on that page. Most of the time, people who are visiting your site are not your current clients. If they are, they'll quickly get access to you however they need to. That's the easy part. So we want to build this for people who are not your clients and people who probably haven't purchased with you yet. So have a clear call to action, one thing that you want them to do, have a way to track that interaction. Okay, have a way to track that interaction and continue building little lines for yourself to that opt-in point. So continue to build little lines for yourself. Every road, what's the saying? Every road leads to Rome. Every road leads to your contact form. And remove some of the complexity here. People don't need to be scheduling with you. They don't need to be filling out their full intake form before they get on a call with you or your administrator. Like, we just need the bare minimum amount of information to allow this person to pass through onto the next step so that you can start that buying process.
100%. At the end of the day, when you start with minimum viability, you get to understand the content that's going to work. Often an overstuffed page that goes into way too much detail in all levels with too many facets is very poor performance. You'd almost rather a little bit of redundancy, explaining your process. Step 1, 2, 3, but also step 3, 2, 1, right? Saying it in different ways, visually, through video, through content. These are ways to actually emphasize your main core outcomes, selling points, and next steps. And so it's just our remarks that if you remove the volume of unique content on your main conversion website and actually replace it with additional formats that emphasize your main selling points and your best content and your best call to actions, formatted in just slightly different ways to hit people from slightly different pain points, sizes, outcomes, call to actions, and some of those things. And that can really increase the amount of people who convert from your website that are viewing it. And that kind of brings us to a last major number 5, do right now tip. At the end of the day, your therapists on your team are your product. Imagine if you go to a website and, it was a like a home repair, and they're like, we do home repairs, book a call if you want to learn about us repairing your home. You're like, cool. That can mean a lot of things. Like, what is it that you do? How do you do it? X, Y, and Z. Your therapists are your product. Your therapists are your product. And if you have unupdated either questions that are still on your website that no longer work or don't have availability, or their programs or their processes have changed, or vice versa, you've got therapists in your team that aren't on your website yet, that is just a huge mistake and a huge opportunity to make sure that your content is always updated. And it should be part of your hiring framework, your hiring SOP, to immediately get updated headshots, updated bios, updated content, and get that all up into your site anytime you have a hire or a fire or a clinician churning, because this is your product representation. This is your quote unquote inventory that you need to make sure is appropriately represented on your site.
Yeah, I think maybe this is just me, but one of the most frustrating things in the world is when you're looking for like a food item and you type it in on Google and then you're like, oh yeah, it's at Walmart and at Albertsons and at wherever. And then you go to Walmart and it's not there and you're like, well, bro. And then you click in further and it's like online only or like some other, like you have to have the right merchandise on the shelf. You have to have the right merchandise on the shelf.
I think it's hilarious that you brought this up because it coincides. Literally yesterday, I did that. I was looking for a specific type of food, went to a grocery store and it wasn't there, and I wanted to pull my hair out. But that goes in tandem. I talk to practice owners all the time, typically smaller group practices, and they say the comment of, I can't get people to reach out through our marketing services for our other clinicians, for our associates, or anyone other than myself. I'm kind of the brand. I've got the reputation. You're misrepresenting your product by acting like you have full availability on your website. It's not enough just to list in the corner, like on a wait list or whatever. You need to reframe your product through your website that you as the founder, you as the main therapist clinician, maybe you still want to take a client or two that will always be available to you. You need to reformat your product orientation on your website if you want to avoid that top to bottom.
Guys, best of luck. We know marketing, especially when it comes to websites in the mental health space, is just one of those really, really hot topics. But hopefully, these points gave you a little bit of clarity and gave you maybe some good direction on what kinds of things are really impacting a practice in 2025.
I want to give one last number 6 bonus tip.
All right. For those of you who
And
stuck to the end.
Here we go. When you think about trying to do video content specifically for your therapist, I highly recommend just a quick little 3 to 5 minute interview format. It can literally be in like a Zoom room, so that way you can just hit record and have it. And you can be like, 3 minute questions with so and so, and have it listed in their bio. And it's, who do you work with? Why do you get them great results? And how are clients typically feeling and what are they experiencing after working with you for a couple weeks or a couple months? And you're just engineering a format that your therapist would feel comfortable with, which is being asked a question and answering, instead of this like polished thing that requires them to feel comfortable and you to feel comfortable. Make it simple and you'll see performance really skyrocket if you are interested in putting video on your website. We hope this helps.
That script. That was a killer script, by the way.
100%. We'll see you guys next time. Cheers.